I drove a Cadillac. Well, Elvis, he had it all. They say he was the king, but look how happy he was when he split the scene.
We all need it. We all need some strategies for a living. So, are you ready? You ready for your daily dose of radio rehab?
I better get ready today.
Oh, yeah, you can untie him in a minute. Hey, folks, welcome. Welcome into 101.7 FM and 710 Keel. Welcome into this edition of Strategies for a Living. I'm Dr. David McMillian. He's Jimmie Bryant, Ph.D. That means he produces, he hosts, and he directs.
Yes.
And yes, you can untie him, our life strategist.
Okay,
I think I don't think he'll balk now.
I don't understand that introduction at all. I am a little surprised.
Robert J. Wright, once again, I'm just joshing you. We've missed you. The last time you were here, which was, we determined January.
Yeah.
January the 9th.
And on the way out, yes.
And I said, you have an open door.
Yep.
And what has it been, 6 months?
Since what? Since I was here?
Yeah, been way too long.
I don't know.
Yeah, well.
God, I sounded like my brother there. I apologize.
Yeah. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Welcome
Thank
back.
you for the invitation.
Yeah.
Well,
did I hesitate when you called?
You didn't.
When you asked?
No, you did not. No, you did
I
not.
leapt at the opportunity.
And I hope you will again and again and again.
Let's not push it.
You were
Twice a year is plenty.
I got you.
When I was here last time, you remember on the way out, he goes, Robert, I said, what's that, Dave? He said, if you'd think about like filling in for me sometime,
I remember.
doing a whole hour, then I could take a night off. And I said, Dave, retired's retired. Retired's retired.
That was a lesson. He was a life strategist, and he was giving me a lesson in
That's
boundaries.
right.
Let me ask you something.
right.
This is legit. Anybody that's retired,
Right?
is that maybe they'll understand what I mean. Before I was retired, which is what?
18 months ago, right?
No, less than that. A year ago, the end of April of 22.
Okay.
Even you had to be, if you were going to tell someone no in a professional sense, even if you were telling them no, you had to be somewhat diplomatic about it.
Yeah.
Because A, they were probably your friends. B, they were probably professional friends at least. You might need them down the line. You don't want to alienate anybody. You want to want to leave it on good terms.
Yeah.
As opposed to being retired. when
Now.
when it no. I mean, how long? Look, I in retrospect, when you asked if I would ever host the show as a guest, it is let's ask the producer. Let me make the statement, and you can comment.
Okay.
Yay or nay? I perhaps was a little terse in my response.
Yay.
Well, we will make the most of what we've got, because tonight our life strategist is Robert J. Wright. Folks, thank you for tuning in to Strategies for a Living. We are presented by the Robinson Film Center. We're presented by Azalea Cleaners, by Pintail Roofing, by Learning Rx, by Hempress, Cannabis with Love, 3766 Uri Drive in Shreveport, and by the Shreveport Little Theater. Back in a moment with Robert J. Wright, our life strategist. Be right back. And welcome into 101.7 FM, 710 Keel. Welcome into Strategies for Living. Jimmie Bryant, David McMillian, our life strategist today. You don't need an introduction. My goodness, how many years on this radio station? Robert J. Wright.
8?
Yeah,
14 to, I think. I don't know.
well,
I don't mean to look. I'm not trying to sound vague and/or well. I'm 71 years old, so I don't mean to sound fuzzy. I am. Have you hit that point yet? By the way, this is a serious question, my friends and I. Two things. One, and I said this to Aaron a million years ago on the radio.
Right.
And I said, if you are, say, over the age of 55 or 60 or whatever it happens to be, that moment when you realize. And it's 100% serious. When you hit that point in life where you realize I can no longer navigate life on autopilot.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking
The second thing is, and my cousin John up in Michigan and I talked about this.
You just recently got back from Michigan.
Yes, it was awesome. My cousin John, who's a lawyer in Lansing, Michigan area. And we were talking about he started doing these like balance exercises,
right?
Because he's having trouble with balance.
Yeah.
And I said, I know what you're talking about. And he says, what does it feel like for you? And I said, like my brain doesn't keep up with my movement. Where I'm 100% serious. So my advice would be, don't get old.
Thanks, Robert. I knew
well, you and my brother went to high school together, right?
Yeah. Brother Hal and I have a 50-year reunion coming up next year.
Congrats, kid.
1974.
You think he's going to go? Did you like high school?
After a while, I had to.
Were you there all 4 years? We're talking about, we both, David and I both.
Went to Jesuit High School.
What is now Loyola.
Yeah, right. To be honest with you, it took me a while to warm up, but right about the end of my sophomore year, really warmed up.
Did you go to Catholic grade school?
Yeah, I went to Christ the King. In fact, Hal and I went to you guys moved here, I guess,
in January of '67,
and so he came. He
was there like half a year.
Half a year in my 6th grade year.
Right.
Yeah.
And then my mother went to work at St. John's.
And so you guys.
And part of her deal was tuition for my brothers, so
right.
they went over there.
Right.
So what I'm just intrigued by this because I have 2 younger brothers, like 67 and 62.
Hal and
63.
Bill, right?
And
the Wright brothers.
Neither of them. I loved high school. God, I loved it. I mean, I
wish I had. I look back, Robert.
That's why I went to LSUS, because I wanted to extend high school. David, 100%.
I look back and I think, gosh, I wasted a couple of years because the Jesuit.
What does that mean?
It means the education was so rich when I look back at it.
Oh my God, we got a college education.
We really did.
There are people in the last half century of my life, post high school, obviously, that have said, you do realize you basically got a college education.
Yeah, I mean,
in high school, or at least 2 years of yes.
I too went to LSUS, and I got to be honest, it was just repeat. I mean, it was really
first 2 years. My first two.
I skated.
I only went to college until I had Dr. Gleason and Middle English literature, which was brutal. But no, I loved high school. Oh my God!
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like I was some sort of stud athlete. Or
well, you were a basketball guy.
I was the guy that handed the towels to the manager to give to the players. Are you freaking kidding me? I was horrible. But I made such good friends. Look, we moved here in January of '67.
Right. Dad came to Barksdale, is that?
No. My dad wasn't Air Force.
Oh.
In fact, we lived in Shady Grove, and we were the only civilians. No, Dad sold women's wear. My dad sold women's wear. And as I've said to so many people through the years, and it took me a while to figure this out, because I have, I'm going to go down another direction here for a second, is how lucky I was to be able to make a living in broadcasting for half a century. Mm-hmm. The only time I was out of radio from 1972 to 22 was when I first moved back here in 96, and I worked at the Times newspaper for a while, and those people then were awesome.
Right.
Or there were awesome.
Right.
And the only other time was almost 2 years when I was in New York doing stand-up. It was, and so the point I was going to make was, my dad, obviously, and we forget this, my dad didn't grow up wanting to be a women's wear salesman.
Right.
You know? And so you look back at the jobs that your dad had or that your friends have, and I have friends that have real grown-up jobs. And it makes me appreciate so much more. I mean, even as I got into maybe the last decade or maybe 15 years of my broadcast career, that, oh my God, you've been fired a dozen times, but you've been able to find a dozen new jobs. So, and all the people, like I said, my dad didn't grow up wanting to be a women's wear salesman.
Yeah.
He wanted, I'm sure he had dreams and hopes and ambitions and all of those things, just like everybody does.
But I love one of his sayings. When you're 90, 95.
Oh, my dad's. Yeah. What did he say? When he said, well, there were five.
Yeah.
And one
I'm
of them
not sure we
was.
can say all of them.
Actually, with context, you might could.
Yeah, maybe.
But what he said was, he said when he turned 90, he said, 95 doesn't seem that old when you're 90 years old. So
Yeah.
Right now, I don't know, 80 seems pretty old to me.
All in context. Yeah.
But back to high school, I'm just intrigued by that. That there. I know
What are you most intrigued by?
that well,
That it took me a while to warm
the
up.
number of people I know who didn't like being in high school. But see, we moved from Charlotte, North Carolina, which was, and it was an all-boys school. Well, so was Jesuit back then.
Right.
But it was just, and I can't think, it's Donald Sutherland and Andrew McCarthy. And I mean, it's basically, it's about the brutality, and I can't think of the name of the movie. And it's about the brutality of Catholic school. I mean, it's everything bad that you. I mean, it's.
Heaven help us,
huh?
Heaven help us.
You tell me. I'm not. You know what I'm talking about.
I think
I mean,
right.
it's. And I have friends. It's. What's the school? The first Matthew McConaughey movie. All right. What movie is that? Dazed
Dazed and Confused.
Dazed and Confused.
That's it.
I hate that movie. Because all it is, like the Ben Affleck character, he just can't wait to beat the hell out of some little freshman or sophomore. And the school that we moved from in North Carolina was like that. Imagine me as a 5'8", 120, not even that much, 105-pound high school freshman being in a couple of fights a week because you either fought or you got hazed.
Right.
And so when we moved here in January of 67, and the very first class I had, and he's still here, and his name's Roy Bernard, and Roy and I are still friends, and I don't know if you know Roy or not.
No,
his son runs the Market Restaurant.
Right.
Out on Norris Ferry.
Right.
And Roy sat behind me in my very first class. And I'm scared to death because I just came from a school that was just, at least cosmetically, was just like the one I moved away from.
And you're coming mid-year, of course.
And I'm mid-year and I don't know a soul. And Roy Bernard sat right behind me and first class. And I'm thinking, God, how many fights am I going to get into this week? New kid, new school. It's just, I was so glad we moved. And now guess what? Lucky you, Bobby. You're going to another all-boys Catholic school. Oh, Jesus. So Roy Bernard, in that very first class, taps me on the shoulder. And I probably jumped like 3 feet in the air just out of Catholic school PTSD.
Yeah.
And I said, hi. And he goes, dude, what's your name? Where are you from? And I thought, oh, my God, this might be different. And it was awesome.
I love it.
It was an awesome place.
It truly was.
I was in the B class, and they
as was I,
which was basically the middle road guys.
Right.
The A class, like if you were a senior, for example, at Jesuit, there was 4A, 4B, 4C. 4A was the honors. These are the guys that are going to go on to like Ivy League schools
Right.
or Notre Dame and be doctors and lawyers. And what the hell, most of them did. Then there was the B class, which was the middle of the bunch, like me.
Right.
And then there was the C class, which was trade school bound.
And by the time I got there, they had added the D class, believe it or not.
Really? but I
You had to
just,
pay the bills.
but the B class that I was in, it had some smart guys that just didn't try that much.
Yep.
A whole bunch of football players.
Yep.
And in the late 1960s, Jesuit High School was a football factory.
They really were.
And then just this odd sort of pre-stoner stoner bunch.
Yeah.
And one of the first things I picked up on in that class was, and I'll just throw some names out. It was football guys. It was Damon Hawkins, and he's still in town, and Butch DePhillips, that I still know very well, and John Restovich, may he rest in peace.
Yes.
And I mean, just a bunch of Pat Payne and Pat Mitchell. I could go on and on. But the point being, these were guys who could have bullied the hell out of whoever they want,
Right.
Whoever they wanted, and they never
And
did.
they never, you were the new kid, and
it was like,
you
hey,
got
where are you
welcomed.
from?
I love it.
It was awesome.
Maybe we ought to make a movie about that. Hold on to that, because I want to talk about the movies for a little bit. But before we talk about the movies, let's talk about the Robinson Film Center, 617 Texas Street, downtown Shreveport. Of course, I say it a lot. There's no place like the Robinson. And, you show up there tomorrow night, everything's pink because you got... It's
gonna be a crazy night tomorrow night.
You got the Barbie party going on, and, of course, then Barbie's own, Oppenheimer's own. It's going to be a heck of a night. You may want to go by Abby Singer's Bistro and on the second floor there and get you a little nourishment before all the goings on. There you go. RobinsonFilmCenter.org. You need to join the crowd and join the fun. Become a member. Get discounts on movies. Get concession upgrades. Get bistro deals. RFC. No place like it. 617 Texas Street, downtown Shreveport. RobinsonFilmCenter.org. And we're back. We're back with Robert J. Wright here on Strategies for a Living. Jimmie, Bryant, David McMillian, and it's good to see you. Good to see you back.
Jimmie was talking. We had such a great conversation leading up to the show. And how old is your son now is crawling?
Yes.
And he's how old?
5 months. He's scooching. He gets on his hindquarters and his elbows and rocks, and he can.
What my dad used to call knee walking drunk.
Oh,
Your kid is knee
That's
walking.
yeah, no, he's right there. Yeah,
It was my best joke leading up to that. I said and we were talking about babies that I don't have kids. I don't have grandkids, obviously, but I said in my whole life, and this is so true. In my entire life, I've held 4 babies. And my success rate is 75%. And we don't talk about the other 25%. It was.
I love it.
It was not. It was horrible.
I got you.
But the baby is grown now, and everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
the baby's fine.
All right, we were talking about movies.
Yes.
You had a dream that you fulfilled. I understand. Did you get into a movie recently?
Oh! I did. I had just semi-jokingly harangued on the radio.
You just really wanted to get into a film prize.
I wanted to be
movie,
in one of the
didn't you?
film prize
Yeah,
movies.
Yeah.
But I
And you've made it now,
well,
or at least that's the rumor.
yeah.
Yeah.
I not on camera, but I did a voiceover for it, and it was a flashback. It was Josh Munn's,
Right.
and his movie. I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't know how much people should know about it.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it was a flashback to I was a sports announcer.
Makes sense.
And it was
Makes
about
total
4 or 5
sense.
paragraphs. And he said, "Would you do this for me?" I said, "Of course I would." And it was about 4 or 5 paragraphs, and I did it to it was like an old. I did it one way, like Jim Nantz.
Right.
Hello, friends. One of those.
Right.
I mean, just don't. You know how tennis announcers are. Very soft but very intense.
Yeah.
And then I did it more of a, "Can you believe what you just saw?" And I did 2 or 3 versions, but it was tons of fun. So thanks to him, and I don't know how it's going to turn out. He said, "What do you want for it?" I said, "Can you get me a pass for Film Prize?" Because Kallenberg's Film Prize is awesome.
Yeah.
So
Everybody's looking forward to it coming up. What's your advice for your good friend Sheriff Prater? He's just announced that he's hanging it up.
I was surprised.
Were you?
Yeah.
I think everybody was.
Well, he had asked me, and I'm not, once again, these were off-the-record conversations.
Yeah.
But he asked me a couple of times we talked about retiring a couple of times. The first time before I had announced or had even really thought about it, and the second time after I had announced that I was going to retire.
Right.
And what he said in a nutshell was, "Man, I don't know. I just can't imagine. I can't imagine not being the sheriff. I can't imagine being retired. I can't imagine having a place to go every day."
Yeah.
So what changed his mind? I don't know any of the particulars. I don't know any more than anybody else. He and I have not spoken.
All I know
don't
is
know if it was health related. I don't know if he just decided, it.
He had some kind of a scare at the cardiologist. That's what the report
But the
said.
outlook is so
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
that I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would be, I was, and I don't know. I was going to say I was surprised to see that John Nicholson, former Councilman Nicholson, is running with the endorsement of Prater.
Well, if you believe the story, and we don't do a whole lot of politics here, almost none. But if you believe the stories that are out there, Nicholson says that Prater asked him
That is entirely
to
possible.
get in. Yeah. So
I mean, that's not. Look,
yeah.
Steve Prater's the kind of guy that you're not going to say publicly that he told you something if he didn't.
Yeah.
Just because everybody that I know, at least, has so much respect for Steve Prater, myself included.
Yes, I think he's been a heck of a good thing for our area. He's been a great sheriff, and I hate seeing.
He will definitely be missed, but I
will
hope
be missed.
I hope he's made the right decision. Pardon me. I hope it wasn't something that he was sort of, for lack of a better term, painted into, a corner he wasn't painted into, that he said, "Man, I can't wait to do this." I hope he's enthusiastic about it, and I'm here to help him learn how to sleep till 9:30 every morning.
Yeah, I'm sure you will give him some good advice.
Go to bed late. It's not that hard.
I love it.
Box wine.
I love it. I gotta bait you a little bit, and we gotta do a little bit of political stuff here, just because it's Robert J. Wright, even though we don't usually do it. But you put a post on Facebook that got my attention back the first part of June. I think there was a children's choir that was at the Capitol,
Where they stopped them from singing the national anthem, or the Capitol Police.
Yeah, they were singing the national anthem in the Capitol, and the Capitol Police stopped them.
Well, look, what we know about January 6th isn't the Capitol Police really nothing more than Nancy Pelosi's own personal little FBI? I mean, really? So, are you surprised? What surprises me when it comes to Democrats is that everybody suddenly is a radical socialist.
Yeah.
Except for maybe Joe Manchin, who is making he's sort of floating trial balloons about running for president, or maybe even as a Democrat, a third party candidate.
Yeah.
But just like Bobby Kennedy, it's if you look at Kennedy testifying before the House today, and everything he said, or for that matter, everything that the latest whistleblower has said about the Biden, what Rush Limbaugh used to call the Biden crime family.
Right.
And then you look on CNN or NBC or ABC or CBS, it doesn't exist. I mean, Bobby Kennedy can say everything he said in front of the House committee today will never be reported anywhere.
Right.
How many times have they, air quotes, accidentally? Your Instagram is accidentally.
Yeah.
You're off YouTube. Well, that was an accident. Everything the Democrats seem to do, and I can't think of Secretary of the Interior. Is it Haddad? I think that's the woman's name. And she was being questioned by Senator Kennedy, John Kennedy from Louisiana.
From Louisiana, of course. Yeah.
And he would ask her a question.
I love Senator Kennedy.
And after every question, she literally would look at him and go, "Thank you for the information, Senator." And he would ask her another question about interior policy or whatever policy of the Biden administration that she knows. And after every question, she would look at him and say, "Thank you for the information, Senator." The point is this: at almost every level of the Biden administration, when they are being questioned by anyone or anything, next time you see somebody, just parenthetically at the end, insert, "And what are you going to do?" And what are you going to do? We're letting in 300, 400,000 illegal migrants every month. And yet we say the border is secure. Parentheses. And what are you going to do? We're shutting down drilling all over federal lands every step of the way. Every step of the way. We are making ourselves more and more energy dependent, not only on Saudi Arabia, but with cobalt and lithium and other rare earth metals necessary for EVs, for the batteries for electric vehicles.
Right.
We're making ourselves dependent on China. China controls 70% of the cobalt rare earth mining globally. So we're trading one energy dependency for another.
Right.
And yet the Biden administration says we're aiming for energy independence. In parentheses, what are you going to do? No matter what the topic is, no matter what it happens to be, just parenthetically at the end. And what are you going to do about it?
If I ask you to look into your crystal ball, what do you think next year is going to
I have no idea. Oh God, I have no idea. Other than you know, and
well, it's going to be fun to have him back on.
You were talking a second ago. We were talking about John Kennedy.
Yeah. Yep.
And he said, was it a Fox interview yesterday or the day before?
I love watching his interviews.
Originally, this idea came from conservative columnist Ann Coulter. And her theory is and remains that the reason for the Trump indictments in Florida, looks like one's coming, or in New York,
right,
maybe in January, is that they are drumming up support for Trump every time they indict Trump, his popularity soars.
Goes up. Yeah, sure.
And the Ann Coulter theory, which was reinforced, underlined, backed up by John Kennedy yesterday or the day before, is that the Democrats, they are maneuvering with the indictments. They want Trump to be the Republican nominee because they, the Democrat hierarchy, including the people running the Biden campaign, believe that Trump is the only Republican they can beat. And Kennedy, and I was surprised to see that. That's exactly what he said. I think it was Fox News, and I think it was yesterday.
Very interesting. It's going to be an interesting year, I got to tell you that. You got to promise to come more than twice.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't even have to. I didn't even have to twist his arm much, you know. Yeah.
Well, that was for public consumption.
Yeah, I mean, that felt a little tepid. I don't know,
Come back. I gotta. You mentioned some of your travels. I gotta ask you where you've been
and where I'm going
and where you're going.
Because you'll be jealous.
And we got to talk The Bachelor before this is over. But it's been going, folks. It's been going on for 101 years. I'm talking about the Shreveport Little Theater, of course, American theater at its best. Tomorrow night, as a matter of fact, the summer musical. We all look forward to it. It starts.
It's here.
Anything goes. Cole Porter's Anything Goes. This thing's going to sell out. You got to get your tickets.
It's classic.
Runs through the 30th. How do you do it? ShreveportLittleTheater.com. While you are at ShreveportLittleTheater.com, of course, check out the 23-24 102nd season. Always Patsy Cline in September. My Way, a tribute to Sinatra in October and November. The Wonderettes are back with Winter Wonderettes in December, and 5 women wearing the same dress in January. Dial M for Murder in February and March, and Jimmy Buffett's Escape to Margaritaville. So get your season ticket. ShreveportLittleTheater.com. 812 Margaret Place in Shreveport. American theater at its best. ShreveportLittleTheater.com. And welcome back. Welcome back into 1017 FM, 710 Keel. Welcome back into Strategies for a Living. Jimmie Bryant, David McMillian, and of course, Robert J. Wright, our life strategist. He doesn't show up as often as we'd like him to, but he's shown up tonight.
It's Groundhog Day.
There you go. There you go. So, The Bachelor. 71 years
That
old.
guy's not. Have you seen the photo of that guy?
You don't believe he's 71, do you?
My line was, if he's 71 years old, he's had more filler than a Uri Drive pothole.
I don't know, Robert. You look pretty doggone good.
You know why? Because
Have you had filler?
Because I have the skincare regimen of a 40-year-old woman. If you saw my bathroom counter, I'm not joking. It's creams and lotions and hyaluronic acid.
I can
and
see that.
it's
I can
all-
imagine.
Oh
It's in my imagination. Yeah.
Firmex for under my eyes. That's the cheapest brand. Not Permatox. I can't think of what it's called. Under eye firmer is my latest. Dude, it's oh my goodness.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah,
It's what's the old Joan Rivers joke? Those aren't. What is it? Those aren't cows. No, those aren't calves. Those are steers. It's when I love it. This is. I don't know if I told you this or not, and this is so. This is going back to when. You tell me when you were. Do you have these flash memories from your childhood that, as you look back on them, they make sense to you now?
Yeah.
Where as a kid, it made no sense at all.
Yeah, some. Yeah.
On Saturdays when I was a kid, occasionally we lived growing up in Palestine, Texas, and my grandparents, my dad's mom and dad, were there. And on Saturday mornings, occasionally my mom would go shopping or whatever there was, and she'd drop us off at our nanny's house.
Yeah.
And my grandmother, the greatest Texas name of all time, Maddie Lee Spruill, born in 1880.
I love it.
Isn't that great?
That's great.
In Slocum County. And she would take care of us on the Saturday mornings, and she would have all her little biddies would come over, and there would be a little coffee klatch out in the back, and they'd be, smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee Saturday morning, and we'd be running around like crazy kids.
Yeah.
And I was probably 6 or 7. And it was a Saturday morning, and I was in the backyard, and they were all sitting up on the porch or whatever little patio area she had. And they were talking about, I don't know if it was being old or makeup or whatever it happened to be. But I'm 7 years old, and I caught this line, and I never understood until ... And one of the elderly women, because she was elderly, hell, she was 65, maybe 70 then. I'm 71 now.
Yeah.
One of those elderly women.
Seemed like right to
And
you at the
one
time.
of them says to my grandmother, "When I look in the mirror, all I recognize is my eyes." And I'm 7 years old. I'm thinking, what the hell does that mean? Well, I didn't say hell because I was 7.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
But man, that got stored, didn't it?
How do you recognize?
Yeah,
Just one
that
of those
got packed
flashes
in.
of
Yeah.
kid memory.
Yeah.
That as I got to be 50 or 55 or 60, and the hairline moved one way and the jawline moved another, I got it. I knew what
Absolutely.
she meant.
Absolutely. Rose to the top of that
So-
EMOS.
man.
Yeah.
So yeah, so when I look at that bathroom countertop and I have creams and lotions and acids and whatever else there happens to be, it's because I want to recognize more than the eyes.
I can see it. Yeah. So we were going to talk about where all you've been. You've been to some good concerts in the last few months.
Let me think. What was I went to Dallas and saw America.
Ooh, how was that?
It was great because I had about 4th row. I have a new rule for concerts.
Yeah.
I'm 100% serious. Most shows you go to, even ones in smaller arenas, and there's a bunch of those. There's the Texas Trust Credit
Right.
Union Theater. There's the Toyota, I think in Grand Prairie, Toyota something
Right.
theater or arena. But my rule is, because shows ain't cheap, if I can't sit someplace where the seat that I have makes me want to watch the artist on stage instead of one of the big TVs on the side, I'm not going.
Makes sense.
And so when I went to see America at the Texas Trust Credit Union Theater about, I want to say it was probably the first week of May, I bought about fourth or fifth row, which was a couple $100.
Yeah.
Good for me. But the point is, I'm not going to sit in the back where I can hear the show, but I watch.
But you watch them on the big
But the
screen.
better view
Yeah.
is the big TV screen.
Yeah.
I wanted, on my bucket list of shows is John Mellencamp, and he was there a couple of weeks later at I think the same theater. But to get an inside the TV screen better than the TV screen seat for John Mellencamp was like $500 or $600. I would have loved to have seen John Mellencamp,
Yeah.
but $600 was no.
Yeah.
And I'm
Couldn't go
not
for that.
And I'm at the point where I'm not going to get a ticket. I mean, that's not an absolute, but for 95% of the artists that I'd want to see.
Yeah. Is Mellencamp your number one bucket list artist? Or?
I don't know.
Well, that view that you're staying away from isn't any better than the view from your couch.
100%
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
100% right. And in fact, it was odd that my brother and I went to see Ron White, comedian Ron White,
Yeah. Yeah.
at a different, and they had TVs on the side, and it was a last minute deal, and it was almost a sellout, and the ticket we got was like $75 or $80, but it was lower level but second tier, and it was a lot better view to watch Ron White on TV
Yeah.
than it was to watch Ron White, that little bitty guy, up on the stage.
Yeah.
And my brother and I were going out for dinner after, and I said, I'm thinking about this. I think this is a new rule. And I proffered the idea that I just said to you
Fourth row,
guys.
yeah.
And he goes, man, that's you're right. He said, because Ron White was awesome. He was funny as hell. Love Ron White.
Yeah.
But I watched Ron White on TV.
Sure.
I didn't seeRon White live.
Right.
I watched Ron
You
Ron
watched him on TV. You
so
paid-
to me, $600, $500 to see Love to see Mellencamp, but not to watch him on TV.
Yeah. Yeah. So, highlight of where you've traveled the last few months?
Ooh, well, I just got back from, here's the deal. I went from here to Nashville. I love car trips. Love car trips. 5, 6, 7 hours in the car is like nothing for me. I love
that's
it.
great.
So I went from here to Nashville to see a friend there. And I don't know if you're like this, as I've gotten, I'm not going to say that, again, not an absolute. Most of my vacations are to see people and not to go places.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I went from here to Nashville to see an old friend, from Nashville to Cincinnati to see another old friend, Cincinnati to Cleveland to see another old friend, then looped back to Grand Rapids, Michigan, where I lived for 5 years,
Right.
and still have tons of friends, then up to Traverse City, Michigan, on Lake Michigan, because that's my mother's hometown,
Right.
and I still have cousins there, and I stayed up there for about 5 days.
Right.
It was awesome. When I got there, the day I got there, it was 90 degrees. The day I left, it was 55 and raining.
Oh, jeez.
And foggy. But, now I'm going to tell you this, and you have to promise not to be jealous, because I'm on the road again next week. Leaving Wednesday.
Yeah.
Promise me?
I'll try. I'll do my best.
Jimmie,
I promise.
I am going to, and I know you guys, I can see the green with envy light coming on. I am going, this is so stupid. I'm going to Davenport, Iowa. Listen to those. If I ever heard laughter of jealousy.
No.
Yes, there is. A week from Saturday, there's a 7-mile road race. That
Yeah.
little motion I'm making with my fingers is
Yeah.
me running, called the Bix, B-I-X,
Yeah.
7, named in honor of Davenport, Iowa native big band singer Bix Beiderbecke. Do you know the name?
I know the name. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The point is, it's the last Saturday in July every year.
Yeah.
Between 15 and 20,000 runners.
Oh, wow.
At
Jeez.
last count, I checked last week, it was about 17,000 and something. And it's like
Lord.
this 4-day party in downtown Davenport, Iowa. And I'd always wanted to go because I'm a runner. I'd
Yeah.
always wanted to go.
Yeah.
and I'd never had the time
The opportunity because
or
you-
the inclination or dedication.
Yeah.
And now all I'm lacking is the dedication. But I'm signed up for a 7-mile road race in Davenport, Iowa, 1 week from Saturday, with about 19,000 of my closest friends.
Good for you, Robert.
That's
Are you training?
Here's what?
Are you training?
We're going to find out. Here's the deal. I was looking at the dates. I knew it was July 29th. And I was looking for hotel rooms. And I wanted something like downtown Davenport. How are we for? We good? We okay?
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay. And I was looking for a hotel. And I found there's a DoubleTree, a Hilton DoubleTree or something downtown Davenport.
Right.
And it was $68 a night. And I thought, oh my God, this is a sign from the Lord.
Yeah.
And then I put in my dates that I wanted to stay there, the 4 nights, and there was an asterisk and it said rates adjusted for event.
Of course.
And it was $315 a night.
Of course.
And I said, well, hell, I'm not going. That's too much.
Yeah.
The next day I had lunch with McCarty, Erin had just had
The shoulder.
neck and shoulder surgery again. And I was telling her, I told her exactly the story I told you. I said, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to $1,500 for a hotel. And David, she looked at me stone cold gunfighter. And she looked, because the woman, she's got this brace on her arm, and she had knee replacement. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
and she looks at me as serious as she's ever said anything in the 25 years we've known each other.
Yeah.
And she looks at me and goes, "Go while you can." I said, "What?" She said, "Go while you're physically able." And I went, holy crap, I'm 71. She's right. And I went home, and I got the room, and I'm going to Iowa.
That's awesome.
There it was. He did it last time, and he's done it again. He's earned his life strat. You know, he claims when he gets here, he doesn't know why we invite him as a life strategist, and yet each time he comes,
If I drop out after 2 miles, you're never going to find out.
Inquiring minds are going to want to know. We're going to invite you back before 6 months. Robert J. Wright, right here on Strategies for Living. We'll be right back. FM, 710 Keel. Jimmie Bryant, David McMillian, and the great Robert J. Wright, our life strategist. Once again, he has earned his life strategist stripes.
That's right.
Here on Strategies for Living in a big way just a moment ago.
He's about got a star.
I think so.
I mean, stripes. We're way past stripes.
Yeah, you're right. You're exactly
Why, thank
right.
you, Jimmy. Why, thank you, David.
You
A
are
pleasure as
welcome.
always, my friend. Good to see you.
It's great to see you, Robert. I hope it won't be 6 months before you come back and catch us up on what's going on.
There's always caller ID, Dave.
You know, Jimmy. He's got an excuse. He was out of town, but I think I saw a post. I think I told you this. I saw a post. Well, it was the post for The Bachelor, the 71-year-old Bachelor.
Yeah, that they have a 71-year-old.
And it came up on my Facebook, and I said, "Oh, I got to invite Robert to talk about this." I called you and left you a message late one afternoon, I think.
Yeah.
And it was the next morning when you got back to me. I wasn't able to answer
Conscience
the phone.
got to me. What can I say?
Yeah, I wasn't able to answer the phone when you called. I was in a session.
That Catholic guilt.
There
There
it is.
Ugly soul.
We rely on it. Amen. And we didn't even get there. The Jeopardy question that folks couldn't answer. Our Father who art in heaven.
Hallowed be they. They didn't know.
They didn't know.
Well,
Yeah, we could do a whole program on that. But anyway, thank you so much for
my pleasure.
for coming, and it's always wonderful to see you. I know folks that listen have loved catching up with Robert J. Wright. So
Thank you for the
I'm sure of
invitation, my friend. Good to see you.
Absolutely. Jimmie, you've done it again. And
Hey, you guys
Does
make
Jimmy
it
call
easy.
me next time?
I'll have Jimmie call you next time. Maybe you'll be a little quicker, getting back.
Couldn't be slower.
Folks, thank you. Thank you for tuning in to Strategy. The only problem, Jimmie, when you have a guy like Robert J. Wright on a Thursday night, what do you come back
How
with?
do you chase that?
What do
Yeah.
you come back with on a Friday? I don't know.
I don't know what you're going to do.
Any
We're gonna
ideas?
have to-
What do you mean? What?
Oh, so you're asking me now?
You're the producer.
Okay.
Folks, thank you for tuning in to Strategies for Living. Of course, brought to you by the Robinson Film Center and by Azalea Cleaners and by Pintail Roofing.
Roof.
And by Learning RX, by Hempress, Cannabis with Love, 3766 Uri Drive in Shreveport, and the Shreveport Little Theater. If today were the last day of your life, you only had one more phone call that you could make, who would you call? What would you say? And why are you waiting? Make the call for Jimmie Bryant and for Robert J. Wright. I'm David McMillian. We'll see you next time here on Strategies for Living.